The game Dead Rails on Roblox has 3 modes: normal mode, nightmare mode, and scorched earth mode. So, I decided to turn on nightmare mode and see how much harder it would be to beat the game. After collecting my first gold bar and converting it to money, I decided to buy as much coal as I could, and with the leftover cash, I bought a bandage, since I had chosen the vampire class for this run, thinking it would make the game easier in this mode. I threw all the coal into the furnace and headed to the first location, the gunsmith building. Hoping to find some kind of weapon and heal by fighting using my vampire knife, I went inside. But the building was practically empty. Only 1 revolver ammo box and 2 other random items, so I grabbed the bodies of defeated enemies and used them to feed the furnace so the train could keep going. I reached the next building, which was just a generic structure with no particular specialty. I decided to check it for some occasional fuel, but it was nearly empty, so I moved on. My next stop was a farm, which besides zombies had a horse wagon. Possibly useful, so I took it along with some zombie corpses and moved on to the next location, a town. It wasn't a large town since it was the first of 7 on my route. After killing most of the zombies, night fell, and with it came runner zombies, which made looting harder. My solution was to climb onto a building's roof and wait out the night so I could open a safe and sell its contents at the outpost. I managed to reach the town. I gathered all my valuable loot and with the sun rising, quickly made my way to the trading post to sell everything before the sun could burn me to a crisp. With the money I earned, I bought a full set of bandages and a chest plate to avoid dying so easily. With what was left, I bought more coal. After getting prepared, I moved on to the next location. After passing through several buildings and surviving a bandit attack on my train, I arrived at another town at night. It was full of zombies. Luckily, the night passed quickly, so I was able to efficiently kill all the zombies and start looting. In the sheriff's building, I found a blunderbuss. I fired my last bullet to test it out. The safe had nothing but 2 bonds inside. I grabbed them and moved on. I reached a large structure resembling a castle, and a building where I expected to find bandages, and I did, which increased my survival chances. Soon after, night fell, but not just any night. A blood moon rose. Vampires started appearing, hungry for my blood. I prepared to defend myself and waited for them to come. Suddenly, they appeared, one after another. Being a vampire myself, I was able to destroy them easily and survive the night. In the morning, I strapped the defeated vampires to the train as future fuel and headed toward a massive coliseum-like structure. As I approached the gates, 2 armored sword-wielding enemies jumped out and attacked me. After defeating them, more kept showing up, including crossbowmen who pelted me with bolts until I looked like a pincushion. With the help of my vampire knife, I healed from the wounds and kept fighting. Soon after, I had defeated all the gladiators and taken only minimal damage. So I decided to explore what the structure was hiding. It had a lot. Valuable loot and healing items. On my way out with a full inventory, I noticed a sword stuck in a rock. It had to be the Excalibur. Greed got the better of me, and I started trying to pull it out. It wasn't easy. The sword was deeply embedded in the stone. All that effort was in vain. A giant zombie burst out from the walls and surprised me. I had to abandon the sword and face him. To make things worse, night fell again. I hid in a nearby dungeon. A good idea, as the giant zombie got stuck on a wall, giving me a chance to damage him. I took it. I pulled out my vampire knife and started slashing. After a long fight, the giant zombie died. I finished off the remaining enemies to find out what the zombie was. It was a Goliath. Would have made great fuel, but I needed supplies, so I took him with me on the train to sell later. I returned to finally pull out the sword from the stone. After heavy effort, I succeeded. It was Excalibur, but after testing it, I decided it wasn't that great and kept using my vampire knife. I gathered valuable loot and headed out to sell it. I reached another outpost. Feeding the train with enemy corpses, I sold my loot and bought a metal sheet for the train and more supplies for the road ahead. But before leaving, I noticed that Excalibur wasn't just an ordinary sword. It had a 20% chance to strike enemies with lightning. I had to test it, so I set off to the next location. Once again, I was attacked by bandits, but thanks to the metal sheet, I easily avoided damage. I skipped a zombie town since it wasn't important anymore. I passed by an outpost and reached a castle. It wasn't as big as the others, but I decided to go in. Before I could even enter, a werewolf jumped me. Then another, and another. But with my speed and strength, they weren't that hard to kill. After defeating them, I entered and found even more inside. Perfect for testing Excalibur. It was powerful. I tore through enemies with ease. I managed to clear the whole castle and began looting. Inside, I found another vampire knife and lots of useful and valuable items. I also mounted another defensive weapon, a turret. After fully looting the castle, I strapped werewolf bodies to the train, but it couldn't move. So I repositioned the corpses and finally got the train going. I arrived at an outpost at night. While it defended itself from zombies, I sold my loot and restocked my supplies. I upgraded the train by adding 2 barbed wires and moved on. At this point, with enemy corpses as fuel and enough coal, I knew I could make it to the end of the map. I stopped looting zombie towns and only stopped at outposts to restock, aiming to skip the rest and reach my final goal. The bandit outpost blocking my only escape route, and my victory in this mode. I stopped a safe distance from the outpost so the enemy turrets couldn't hit me and used my rifle to destroy them. After that, I dealt with the bandits in the camp. One had a rifle and dealt serious damage, so I had to use a bandage to restore health. But with plenty of snake oil in my inventory, I used it to both heal and increase my speed even further. I killed the bandits and approached the raised bridge. I cleared the outpost of useful items and started the final phase of the game. I had to defend myself for 4 minutes. With the sun constantly burning me, I had to be careful not to get scorched and kept using bandages. I jumped on the turret and used it to fend off wave after wave of bandits. Eventually, zombies started attacking too. They ran up to my train where the turret couldn't reach. I had to get off the turret and deal with them manually. The bridge was lowering, slowly but surely, while the zombie attacks kept coming. At some point, the attacks stopped. No more bandits, no more zombies, and the bridge was nearly down. All that remained was to wait for the bridge to lower completely.